Why do some people always talk about success, and others just show up and win in silence? Have you ever stayed quiet about your goals because you didn't want the judgment, the pressure, the noise? If so, this message is for you. The ones who talk the least often build the most. Every move in silence becomes an explosion in public. You don't need to prove anything with words, let your results do the talking. This is your reminder. Never tell people what you do. Focus in silence. Win in public. Have you ever told someone your goal and felt proud, even before you did anything? It's a strange feeling. You share your dream, they nod or clap, and suddenly it's like you already achieved something. But deep down, you know nothing's changed. This is what we call the illusion of sharing. It's not progress. It only feels like it. When you speak your dreams out loud, your brain gives you a small reward, a spark of dopamine. It's the same chemical hit you get when you win. But this time, you didn't earn it. You only described it. That moment of pleasure becomes dangerous, because it tricks your mind into believing you're further ahead than you are. You feel satisfied, relaxed, and often you lose the urgency to act. That's the illusion. That's the trap. You might think, but what's wrong with telling people my goals? It keeps me accountable, right? Not always, because the more you talk about what you're going to do, the more your mind thinks it's already happening. You trade execution for approval, and the goal becomes a story instead of a mission. Now think about this. How many people do you know who constantly post about their hustle, but never seem to grow? How many talk about the books they'll write, the businesses they'll launch, the changes they'll make? But year after year, they stay the same. They've fallen into the illusion. Words became a substitute for work. Silence, on the other hand, forces action. When no one knows what you're building, there's no applause to fake progress, no validation to distract you, just you and the grind. That's where real transformation happens. You're not pretending. You're producing. We live in a world where sharing is a reflex. We share meals, thoughts, routines, even emotions, as if existence needs to be confirmed through attention. But attention is fleeting, and sometimes the more people look, the harder it becomes to move, because eyes bring pressure, expectations, and fear of failure. But when no one's watching, you're free to fail, free to experiment, free to grow without judgment. Some of the most successful people didn't tell the world what they were doing. They built in silence, then showed up with results. Why? Because silence protects energy. Every time you explain your plan, you spend emotional energy. You open the door to opinions, to doubt, to questions you don't need. And those questions, they can shake you. Not because they're true, but because they slow you down. Now ask yourself, why do you want to share? Is it for accountability or attention? Is it to stay motivated or to be seen? Because there's a difference. If your goal needs public approval to survive, it's not a strong goal. It's a fragile one. But if you can build it in silence, day by day, step by step, you'll come out stronger than ever. Silence is not weakness. It's control. It means you don't need to be understood in the moment, because you trust yourself in the long run. You're not in a race for recognition. You're in a journey of creation, and the more you focus inward, the louder your results will speak later. Think about seeds. They don't grow in the sun. They grow underground, in darkness, in silence, far from sight. But given time, they break through the surface, stronger, rooted, and ready. Your goals are the same. Let them grow where no one can see. Let them gain roots before they rise. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about ego. Ego loves to talk. It loves to impress. It needs recognition to survive. But fulfillment, that comes from progress, not performance. Every time you tell someone your next move, ask yourself, is this my purpose talking or my ego? because the ego will push you to share, but purpose will push you to build. You'll be tempted to show off small wins, to post every step, to announce new goals. But every time you resist that urge, you grow. You develop inner strength. You protect your momentum. You stay focused. And one day, you'll reveal something that needs no explanation, because people will see it, feel it, respect it, without you ever needing to say a word. So, how do you break the illusion? You go quiet, not forever, just long enough to work in peace. You stop telling people what you're going to do, and you start doing it. You write in silence. You train in silence. You grow in silence, because you understand that progress doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs discipline. There's a quiet confidence that comes with that, a stillness. You no longer need permission. You no longer seek approval. You become dangerous, not because you're loud, but because you're focused. And that kind of focus, it's rare. It's what separates the talkers from the builders, the dreamers from the doers.
In silence, you learn to rely on yourself, to build without feedback, to stay driven without applause. It's hard at first, but over time, it becomes your edge. While others are explaining, you're executing. While they're waiting to be seen, you're becoming someone worth seeing. And when the results come, they'll speak louder than you ever could. Remember this, the illusion of sharing is sweet, but it's temporary. The satisfaction of doing is deeper, and it lasts. Let the world wonder. Let them guess. While they talk, you work. While they post, you build. Because silence isn't the absence of power, it's the preparation for it. This is how leaders rise. This is how legacies begin. In silence, in focus, in truth.
Chapter 2. The Power of Privacy. Privacy isn't about being secretive. It's not about hiding. It's about protecting something sacred. Your energy, your focus, your peace. We live in a world where everything is shared. Photos, plans, feelings, goals. We give people access to our lives before we even understand those lives ourselves. And little by little, piece by piece, we lose control of the one thing that matters most, our inner world. In Chapter 1, we explored the illusion of sharing, how talking about your goals gives you a false sense of progress. Now we go deeper, because privacy isn't just about not talking. It's about what happens when you don't. It's about the clarity that shows up, when the noise disappears. You see, when you live publicly, you live for opinions, for reactions, for validation. But when you live privately, you start living for truth, not what looks good, what feels right. Think about this. When was the last time you made a decision just for you? Not to impress, not to prove, just because it aligned with who you are. It's harder than it sounds, because the more public your life becomes, the more filtered your actions get. You start to move based on perception, not purpose. Privacy is power because it protects your purpose. When you work in silence, you get real with yourself. You confront what matters. You sit with the truth. You stop chasing applause, and you start chasing growth. There's a quiet room inside every one of us, a place where the noise fades, where doubts calm down, where ego softens, and where vision becomes clear. That's where your best decisions come from. That's where real strategy lives. That's where deep focus begins. But you can't access that room when you're always performing, and you can't grow if you're always being watched. Privacy creates a container. It holds space for progress. It's where your raw ideas get shaped before the world can break them. Imagine trying to build a house with the whole neighborhood watching. Every brick you lay gets questioned. Every design gets judged. That's what building publicly feels like. It's exhausting. You're never alone long enough to figure out what you want. But when no one's watching, you can build without fear. You can try, fail, rebuild, and evolve. You can change your mind. You can sharpen your skills. You can become someone stronger, someone clear. Privacy is the freedom to evolve without explanation. Some people misunderstand this. They think privacy means being cold, distant, closed off. But it's the opposite. Privacy allows depth, because you're no longer spreading yourself thin, no longer managing what everyone thinks of you. Instead, you're investing inward. You're getting precise, focused, rooted, and from that rooted place your actions become unstoppable. Here's the truth most people miss. Not everything is meant to be shared. Some things are meant to be sacred. Your vision? Sacred. Your pain? Sacred. Your process, your discipline, your struggles? Sacred. They don't need an audience. They need your full attention. Have you noticed how people treat you differently when they know too much? Sometimes they cheer you on. Sometimes they doubt you. Sometimes they even copy you. But the moment something private becomes public, it becomes harder to protect. And the world isn't always gentle with what's unfinished. That's why privacy matters. Not because you're weak, but because you're still becoming. In silence, your identity takes shape. In privacy, your confidence builds, because there's no pressure to perform, just a commitment to become. That's the power of privacy. You start trusting your own feedback. You don't need constant reassurance. You learn how to self-correct, how to listen inward, not outward. Eventually, something shifts. You stop needing everyone to understand you. You stop explaining. You stop defending your choices. You simply live. You move with purpose. You create. And when you do that, you attract a different kind of respect. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it through discipline. Privacy teaches you to protect your peace, to protect your time, to protect your energy, because not everyone deserves access to every part of you. Your energy is limited, and if you're always spending it trying to be seen, you'll have nothing left to build with. But when you hold your energy close, it multiplies, it focuses, it sharpens, and that's where your power grows. Now ask yourself, what part of your life needs more privacy? Maybe it's your goals, maybe your relationships, maybe your struggles. Whatever it is, give it space to breathe. Not everything needs an update. Not everything needs applause. Some things just need time. Privacy also helps you filter your circle. When you stop sharing everything, you see who asks. You see who supports you, not for what you can give them, not for your image, but for your essence. And you realize, you don't need as many people as you thought. You just need the right ones. With privacy comes peace. With peace comes focus. With focus comes momentum. And with momentum comes success. Quiet, lasting, and real. The kind that doesn't fade when the spotlight turns off, because it wasn't built for the spotlight. It was built in the dark. Built for you. In this silence, you grow. In this privacy, you sharpen. And one day, without even trying, you'll walk into a room and people will feel your presence. Not because you talked about it, but because your energy will carry the weight of everything you've built. That's the power of privacy. You don't need to be known. You need to be ready. And when you're ready, the world will know. But not before. Let others perform. Let others overshare. You stay quiet, stay grounded. And when your time comes, let your work be your voice. Let your growth be your story. Let your presence be your proof. This is how we move. Not loud, not frantic, not desperate, but clear, steady, private, powerful. Chapter 3. Talk drains, work builds. We've talked about the illusion of sharing. We've talked about the power of privacy. Now it's time to face the next truth. One that separates the talkers from the builders. Talk drains. Work builds. It's that simple, but we forget it every day. Words are cheap. They cost nothing to say, but they can cost you everything when they replace real action. Because here's what happens. The more you talk about what you're going to do, the less energy you have left to actually do it. You burn your focus in conversations that should have been kept as commitments to yourself. You get caught in a cycle. You keep saying, and saying, and saying, but nothing really changes. Talking gives you the illusion of movement. You feel productive, you feel inspired, but feelings lie. Work, on the other hand, is real. It's measurable. It leaves a mark. It builds momentum, not in your mouth, but in your life. Ask yourself this: are you making progress or just making noise? Are you building something solid or just describing blueprints you never touch? We all fall into it sometimes, but the faster you catch it, the faster you grow. There's a hidden cost in over-talking. Every time you explain your goals, you're giving your energy away, and energy is finite. It's like a battery. You wake up with a full charge, but the more you speak about your plans, the more that battery drains. Until you're left tired, from words that did nothing. Meanwhile, work recharges you. It's strange but true. Deep work, hard work, the kind of work that feels heavy, it builds energy over time. Because with every step forward, you gain power. You see results. You create your own momentum. Silence becomes your fuel station, and action becomes your vehicle. You don't need to talk about the road ahead, just drive it. And the more you drive, the more distance you cover. But there's a reason we fall into the trap of talk. Talking is easy. Talking is safe. There's no risk in saying. There's risk in doing. Doing invites failure. Doing requires discomfort. Doing demands consistency. But only doing leads to change. Let's go deeper. Talking doesn't just drain your energy. It drains your identity. Because the more you talk about who you want to become, the less time you spend actually becoming that person. You start identifying with your words, not your habits. You become the person who plans to, instead of the person who just does. Builders think differently. They don't ask for permission. They don't look for praise. They stay low. They stay busy. They let the work stack, brick by brick, day by day. They don't shout, they show. They don't explain, they execute. That's the difference. Now ask yourself this: when was the last time you spent a full day building without telling a single soul? No posts, no updates, no explanations. Just you and the work. That's when magic happens. That's when momentum builds in silence. Talk feels good in the moment, but work feels good forever. Talking impresses people for a second. Work impresses the world for a lifetime. It lasts, because real work is proof, not potential, proof. So what drains you? The meetings that go nowhere? The people who talk more than they do? The voice in your own head that keeps saying, tomorrow? Cut the noise. Stop talking about the change. Be the change. Don't post your grind. Live your grind. You don't need motivation speeches. You need discipline. You need repetition. You need to get up and do it again, whether you feel like it or not, because that's where the breakthrough lives. Not in the words, but in the work. Let's be real. People will always talk. They'll talk about what they want to do, what they could have done, what they almost achieved. But you don't want almost. You want legacy. You want strength. You want real results that no one can take away. That comes through sweat, not speech. Through discipline, not discussion. Imagine a world where you stopped explaining and just started building, where your results made the noise, where your work spoke for itself, where your life became the message. That's not just possible. That's necessary if you want to win. You've probably heard the saying, let success make the noise. But it's more than that. Let work make the noise. Because without work, there is no success. And without silence, there is no work that lasts. In Chapter 1, you learned that sharing too much tricks the mind into thinking you've made progress. In Chapter 2, you saw how privacy protects your energy. Now, in Chapter 3, you see the formula. Talk drains. Work builds. Privacy protects. Silence powers. Everything connects. When you fall in love with the process, you stop needing the praise. You stop chasing applause because the work itself becomes your reward. You get addicted to discipline. You get obsessed with mastery. You wake up excited to move forward, not to explain why you're standing still. Let them doubt. Let them talk. Let them wonder where you went. You're not missing. You're building. You're not quiet. You're focused. You're not slow. You're intentional. And when the work is done, the world will feel it. Work silently. Build quietly. Move strategically. Speak only through results. And remember this: people may forget what you said. They may ignore what you planned. But they'll never forget what you built. Because real work echoes, long after the noise dies down. Stay low, stay working, and let them talk. Because while they talk, you build. Chapter 4. Let doubt be your advantage. Let's be honest, you've been doubted. By friends, by family, by strangers, sometimes even by yourself. That doubt stings. It cuts deep. And for a moment, it makes you question everything. Am I good enough? Am I dreaming too big? Am I wasting my time? We've all been there. But what if I told you, doubt is not your weakness. It's your weapon, your advantage, your edge. Think about this. The people who are doubted the most are often the ones trying to do something different, something uncommon, something that makes others uncomfortable. That's why they doubt you. Not because you can't win, but because if you do, it'll expose everything they're not doing. Doubt isn't the problem. It's what you do with the doubt that matters. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. You can let it silence you, or you can let it fuel you. You get to choose. In Chapter 3, we talked about work, about how action builds while talk drains. Now we dig deeper, because when you're doubted, you have something powerful. You have something to prove, and nothing sharpens focus like being counted out. See, when people believe in you too much, you can get comfortable. You start performing for their praise. You start living for approval. But when they doubt you, you get silent. You go inward. You get serious. And that's where the shift happens. The doubt becomes your fire. It becomes the reason you wake up earlier, the reason you study longer, the reason you stay consistent even when no one's clapping. Because you know what they said, and you're not here to argue. You're here to show. There's something special about a person on a mission. Not for revenge, but for redemption. Not to prove others wrong, but to prove themselves right. That's what real power looks like. Quiet, unbothered, unstoppable. And here's the truth. Every great success story started with a season of doubt. Every builder, every leader, every legend was once underestimated. You're not the first, but you have the chance to be one of the few who don't fold under pressure. Let doubt become your silence. Let silence become your focus. Let focus become your work. And let your work become your response. You don't need to argue. You don't need to prove anything today. Just build. Because one day, the very people who doubted you will have no choice but to respect you. Use it. Use the doubt. Use the whispers. Use the smirks. Use the laughter behind your back. Turn it into discipline. Turn it into fire. Turn it into fuel. You don't need their belief. You need your grind. And listen. When you stop fighting doubt with words and start fighting it with action, you become untouchable. You don't react. You redirect. You don't argue. You advance. Doubt builds character. Doubt builds grit. Doubt forces you to earn everything. And when you earn it, you value it more. You protect it. You grow it. You never take it for granted. Remember this. People don't doubt the weak. They doubt the ones who scare them. the ones who remind them of what they gave up on, the ones who make them question their own effort. So if they doubt you, good, let them. You just work. There will be days where the doubt feels heavy, days where it creeps into your own thoughts. But that's okay, because even self-doubt can be turned into strength. How? By doing the work anyway. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to move. You don't need full confidence. You just need courage, tiny steps, quiet wins, daily effort, and one day you'll look back and realize the doubt was just noise, and your work drowned it out. You see, doubt is loud in the beginning, but it gets quieter with every action you take. You silence it not by shouting, but by showing up, over and over, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. In Chapter 2, we learned about privacy, how protecting your process builds strength. And now, in Chapter 4, we realize doubt is strongest in the open, but it dies in the dark. When you go quiet and work, doubt loses oxygen. It can't survive in your discipline. Let them think you can't. Let them think you won't. Just keep stacking wins in silence. Every small win is one brick closer to the wall that will block out every critic. And when that wall is finished, when your work is done, when your path is clear, you won't need to say anything. They'll see it. They'll feel it. They'll know. You didn't need their belief. You just needed time. Time to prove, not to them but to yourself, that you had it in you all along. So the next time someone doubts you, don't flinch. Smile quietly, say nothing, and go to work, because one day they won't even recognize you. They'll wonder how you did it, and you'll know the answer. I let doubt become my advantage. Chapter 5. The Discipline of Silence. Silence. Not everyone understands it, not everyone respects it, but those who master it rise. In the last chapter we spoke about doubt, how it can fuel you, push you, mold you. But silence is what carries you through. This is not just about being quiet. It's about developing discipline through silence, the kind of silence that holds power, the kind of silence that protects your mission. Most people speak to be heard. Few stay silent to stay focused. Most people talk to feel important. Few stay quiet to become powerful. You see, silence is a skill. But more than that, silence is strength. It's not weakness to say nothing. It's wisdom. The discipline of silence is this: choosing to say less while doing more, choosing to observe before you react, choosing to think before you respond. In a world that rewards noise, you will stand out by not playing the game. Let's go deeper. Silence teaches you patience. Silence teaches you control. Silence gives you room to grow. It keeps you away from distractions. It shields you from shallow praise. It removes you from pointless battles. Because when you're silent, you stop proving, and you start improving. Look around. Everyone wants to speak. Everyone wants to be right. Everyone wants the last word. But the people with real power, they don't argue. They don't explain. They don't defend. They execute. They evolve. They endure. In silence, your voice grows sharper. Your mind gets clearer. Your purpose gets louder. But only to you. Not to the world. Not yet. Because the world doesn't need to hear your every step. It needs to see your finished path. Here's something few understand. Noise can be addictive. We think we're making progress just because we're saying something. We think we're being productive just because we're talking about it. But real builders, they don't waste words. They conserve energy. They turn down the volume so they can turn up the focus. Silence is like sharpening a blade. It's unseen. It's slow. It's boring to others. But when the time comes, you cut through noise with precision. You act while others overthink. You move while others discuss. You deliver while others delay. That is the reward of silence. Think back to Chapter 3. We said, talk drains. Work builds. Now combine that with what you're learning here. Silence protects your work. Silence deepens your discipline. When you remove the need to talk, you remove the pressure to perform for others. You perform only for yourself. And that's when mastery begins. The discipline of silence also teaches you to listen, not just to others but to your own thoughts. In the quiet, you begin to hear what matters, your doubts, your fears, your hopes, and in that silence, you begin to sort them out. You begin to fight back. You begin to build again. It's not just about staying silent around others. It's about silencing the noise inside you. That voice that wants validation. That voice that wants to brag. That voice that wants applause. You silence that voice with discipline. And when that voice fades, what's left is peace. What's left is power. Ask yourself, can you go 30 days without telling anyone your goals? Can you build quietly without the need for updates? Can you let your results speak instead of your mouth? That's discipline. Not everyone has it, but everyone can build it. It starts small. You want to post about what you're working on? Don't. You want to share your plans with people who won't understand them? Don't. You want to prove your worth in conversations that go nowhere? Walk away. Choose silence, again and again, until it becomes who you are. Because silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of strength. It means you're focused. It means you're committed. It means you're busy building something too valuable to be explained in words. Silence also keeps your enemies confused. They don't know what's coming. They don't know where you stand. They can't stop what they can't see. That's power. That's protection. That's leverage. Chapter 1 taught us about the illusion of sharing, that when you speak too much, you feel progress that isn't real. Chapter 2 reminded us that privacy is strength, that keeping things to yourself makes you stronger. Chapter 3 revealed that talk drains and work builds. That action is louder than words. Chapter 4 turned doubt into fuel. And now, Chapter 5 makes this clear. Silence is the foundation where it all lives. Without silence, your work leaks. Without silence, your power scatters. Without silence, you stay reactive, not focused. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them wait. You've got nothing to prove. You've got work to do. The louder the world gets, the more powerful your silence becomes. Because while they scream for attention, you're building results that will make them whisper your name. Silence is your edge. Silence is your armor. Silence is your discipline. Keep it, and keep going. Chapter 6 starve the ego. Feed the goal. You want to win. You want to grow. Then you must face the enemy living inside you. Not the haters, not the doubters, not the critics. The ego. The ego wants applause. The ego wants attention. The ego wants to be seen. Right now. But goals don't care about applause. Goals don't need attention. Goals demand work. This is the conflict. You can chase ego, or you can chase goals. But you can't do both. Ego is loud. It wants credit before the work is done. It wants people watching even when there's nothing to see. Goal is quiet. It wants sacrifice. It wants struggle. It wants late nights when no one's cheering. So the question is, are you ready to starve the ego? To feed the goal? Let's talk truth. Ego wants to look like a winner. Goal wants to become one. Ego wants to look busy. Goal wants results. Ego shows off the process. Goal finishes it, then speaks with proof. Which one are you serving today? In Chapter 5, we explored the discipline of silence. Now we go even deeper, because silence means nothing if the ego is still screaming inside you. You can be quiet on the outside, but if your mind is full of pride, you'll never truly focus. You'll be building just to show off, not to grow. And here's the danger. The ego loves shortcuts. It loves the spotlight. It loves the feeling of success more than the process that creates it. So it fakes progress. It posts everything. It flexes before it finishes. That's how people get stuck. That's how people lose. Let me tell you something real. Your ego doesn't care if you win. It just wants to look like you're winning. It wants you to talk about the grind more than actually grinding. It wants the world to think you're building even when you're doing nothing. But your goal doesn't need any of that. Your goal wants sweat. Your goal wants repetition. Your goal wants failure, followed by learning. Your goal doesn't need applause. It needs commitment. So, how do you starve the ego? You stop feeding it. You stop needing attention. You stop needing validation. You stop needing to be seen. And you start doing the work in the dark. That's where champions are built. That's where goals are fed. In the silence, in the solitude, in the grind that nobody else sees. Starving the ego is uncomfortable because the ego craves praise. But the more you deny it, the stronger you become. You get leaner, sharper, hungrier, and hunger feeds the goal. The truth is simple. Ego consumes. Goals build. You want to be recognized. Fine. But earn it. Don't demand it. Don't beg for it. Don't fake it. Earn it in silence. Here's something powerful. The people who are obsessed with success don't look successful while they're building. They look tired. They look focused. They look invisible. And that's exactly why they win. Because they're too busy feeding the goal to entertain the ego. Remember this. Ego is a liar. It tells you you're already great. So you stop improving. Goals are honest. They show you how far you still have to go. So you keep climbing. That's why ego ruins progress. It convinces you to celebrate too early. Have you ever noticed? Some people never finish what they start because they fall in love with the image before they finish the mission. They post every step. They announce every move. They chase followers instead of mastery. That's ego. Not ambition, not confidence, just ego dressed up like progress. Feeding your goal means doing the boring things, again, and again, and again. No spotlight, no likes, no validation, just growth, just consistency, just pain with purpose. Let your hunger speak for you. Let your grind become your identity. Let your obsession with the goal overpower the ego's need to be seen. That's real discipline. That's real power. Ego makes you a slave to opinion. Goals make you free. When you feed the goal, you don't care who's watching, because the mission is bigger than the moment, and you're building something that doesn't need explanation, only execution. In Chapter 4, we said, let doubt be your advantage. Let it sharpen you. Let it guide you back to the work. Now this, let ego be your alarm. Every time it speaks, listen, but not to obey it, to silence it. Ego is the early warning system that you're getting off track, that you're chasing noise, not results. Use that awareness to reset, to return, to refocus. There's a reason you started, a reason you stayed quiet, a reason you kept grinding in the dark. That reason wasn't applause. It was impact. It was freedom. It was growth. Never trade that for ego. Some people get a taste of success, and ego pulls them off the path. They start talking. They start showing off. They start slowing down. But the ones who keep rising, they never stop feeding the goal. They remain obsessed, focused, humble, dangerous. It's not about pretending to be nothing. It's about remembering you're not done. It's about reminding yourself that every win is just a step, that the real journey is still ahead. Ego says, I made it. The goal says, keep moving. Listen to the goal. So from this day forward, starve the ego. Every time you want to talk, ask yourself, is this for progress or just for praise? Every time you want attention, ask, is this helping my mission or feeding my pride? and then act accordingly. Because in the end, results don't come from ego. They come from effort. Let your silence remain loud. Let your grind remain private. Let your results speak, and let your ego starve. Chapter 7. Master the quiet grind. No applause, no crowd, no cameras, just you, the work, and the silence. This is where the winners are made. If Chapter 6 taught you to silence the ego, Chapter 7 is where you turn that silence into fuel. You've stopped needing validation. You've stopped chasing noise. Now, what's left? The grind. But not just any grind. The quiet grind. You see, anyone can show up when it's exciting. Anyone can work when everyone's watching. But what about when it's boring? When it's hard? When no one sees? That's where the difference is made. The quiet grind is where mastery lives. No one posts it. No one praises it. But it changes everything. Because when you can show up without needing a spotlight, you become unstoppable. Ask yourself this: can you keep building when no one's clapping? Can you keep pushing when no one's cheering? Most people can't. That's why most people lose. They start strong, but they fade when it gets quiet. They get addicted to attention, and when it disappears, so does their work ethic. But the greats fall in love with the silence, because they know the grind is what builds the result. The quiet grind is where transformation happens. You don't master anything by talking. You master it by repeating, again, and again, and again. When it's not fun, when it's not glamorous, when it's lonely, that's where the shift happens. Let me give it to you straight. You want to win? You want to build something real? Then learn to embrace the boring. That's the secret no one tells you. It's not motivation. It's not excitement. It's not hype. It's showing up day after day when nothing's happening. That's the quiet grind. Waking up early with no one telling you to. Putting in the reps when no one's counting. Studying, training, pushing, without the world watching. It's thankless. It's invisible. And it's powerful. Because the grind doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you're celebrated. It only cares if you show up. In the last chapter, you starved your ego. Now, you feed your discipline. Discipline is the backbone of the quiet grind. It's the engine that keeps going even when motivation dies. And motivation will die. Trust me, it always does. But discipline? Discipline shows up even when you're tired. Even when you're uninspired. Even when the results haven't come yet. That's the difference. Most people work when it's easy. Winners work especially when it's hard. That's why the grind is quiet. It's not a moment. It's a lifestyle. Think of the most successful people you admire. You didn't see the years in the dark. You didn't see the countless hours when they wanted to quit. You only saw the result. But make no mistake, what got them there was the grind you never saw. Silence is not empty. It's full of everything that matters. Focus, practice, growth, execution. That's the foundation of greatness. You don't need a big moment to start. You need a decision. A quiet decision that says, I'm showing up. Every day, no matter what. And then you do it. Here's the truth. In the quiet, your mind gets clearer. Your instincts get sharper. Your purpose gets stronger. You stop reacting to the noise outside, and you start listening to the voice inside. That voice is the one that tells you, you were made for more. But it's not enough to hear that voice. You have to prove it. With sweat, with effort, with action, day after day, even when no one is clapping, especially then. The grind is a test. It asks, do you really want this? Not just when it's fun, not just when it's fast, but when it's painful, slow, repetitive. Do you want it enough to keep going when progress feels invisible? That's what separates dreamers from doers. In Chapter 3, we said, talk drains, work builds. Now we're showing you what that work really looks like. It's not always sexy, it's not always exciting, but it's always worth it. Because every quiet rep, every lonely hour, every unnoticed effort, they all stack, they all build, they all pay off. The quiet grind doesn't pay you in applause. It pays you in results. And those results are silent too, until they're undeniable. So stop waiting for the world to notice. Start becoming undeniable in silence. Build the kind of skill that doesn't need to be announced. Deliver the kind of results that speak without a word. Here's something to carry with you. If you're consistent in the quiet, you'll be powerful in the storm. If you're disciplined in the shadows, you'll dominate in the light. You don't rise by talking. You rise by doing. So when you wake up tomorrow, ask yourself, what can I do today that no one will see but everyone will feel later? That's how you master the grind. Quietly, humbly, relentlessly. The grind doesn't owe you anything. It will only give you what you earn. So stop measuring how far you've come by applause. Start measuring it by effort, day after day, step after step, even when you're tired, even when it's slow, especially then. In Chapter 8, we'll go one step further. Now that you've learned to master the quiet grind, it's time to become untraceable. Because when no one knows your moves, they can't block your growth. Ready when you are. Chapter 8. When to speak, when not to. There's a time to speak, and there's a time to stay silent. The people who win in life know the difference. Not everyone needs to hear your thoughts. Not every moment needs your voice. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. Let's take a step back. In Chapter 7, you learned the power of the quiet grind, the beauty of putting your head down and doing the work, even when no one notices. Now we go deeper. Because even as you build in silence, the world will tempt you to speak, to explain, to announce, to prove. But here's the truth. What you say can build you, or it can break you. Most people speak to impress. Few speak to impact. Most talk too soon. Few talk with purpose. Your words are like currency. Use them wisely, or you'll go broke. Some of the strongest people in the world say the least. They don't need to be loud. They don't need to be first. They don't need to be constant. Because they understand one truth. Words are power, and real power is quiet. Let's talk about when to speak. Speak when it matters. Speak when it lifts. Speak when it moves things forward. Speak to teach. Speak to lead. Speak to serve. But never speak just to fill space. You don't have to voice every opinion. You don't need to correct every lie. You don't need to chase every comment, because silence, when used with strength, is louder than noise. Think about the world right now. Everyone is shouting. Everyone is performing. But in that chaos, the one who speaks with purpose stands out, because people don't remember noise. They remember clarity, and clarity comes from knowing when to speak and when not to. You don't become wise by talking. You become wise by observing, by listening, by watching how people move, not just what they say. This is what the quiet grind prepared you for. You've done the work. You've built the focus. Now you develop the discipline of restraint. Let's go deeper. When not to speak. When you're angry. When your ego is hurt. When you feel the need to prove something. When the room is filled with noise, when your words won't add value. Because in those moments, silence is power. It protects you. It positions you. It preserves your energy. Here's something most people never learn. Silence can never be misquoted. Silence can never be twisted. Silence gives you time to understand before you react. This is how you control the narrative, by not always giving one. But here's the trap. If you're always silent, you'll be overlooked. If you're always speaking, you'll be ignored. Balance matters. It's not about being mute. It's about being measured. The right word at the wrong time can still damage your progress, but the right word at the right time, it can open doors, shift minds, start revolutions. So, how do you know when to speak? Ask yourself 3 simple questions. 1. Is this true? 2. Is this necessary? 3. Will this move things forward? If it's not all 3, don't say it. Not every thought deserves to become sound. Let's return to what you've already built. You've starved the ego. You've fed the goal. You've embraced the discipline of silence. You've mastered the quiet grind. This chapter is where all that meets your voice, because even silence has a voice. It speaks through results, through timing, through control. Sometimes your silence teaches more than your speeches. Sometimes not responding is the most powerful move in the room. Let's look at the greats. Real leaders, true power players, speak last. They listen first. They watch how others behave, and when they speak, every word carries weight. Why? Because they don't speak all the time. When you talk constantly, your voice gets lighter. When you talk wisely, your voice gets louder, even when it's soft. Think of your words like a sword. You don't wave it in the air for fun. You pull it out only when necessary. And when you do, people feel it. Here's the trap many fall into. They think silence means weakness. They think not responding means losing. But silence is not weakness. It's restraint. It's strategy. It's self-control. Silence is choosing to win long-term, not react in the moment. Think about how many times you've said something you regret. Now think about how many times you stayed silent and protected your peace. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to defend your every move. Let the work speak. Let the results speak. Let time speak. People respect silence more than noise. They may not admit it, but they do. Because silence requires strength. Noise is easy. Noise is cheap. But silence is earned. In Chapter 9, we're going even deeper. You've learned when to speak and when not to. Now it's time to disappear completely. Because in the next chapter we'll talk about be untraceable, how to make moves that can't be blocked because no one sees them coming. The fewer people know your steps, the more powerful they become. But for now, remember, talk less, do more. Let your silence echo louder than any noise around you. This is the art of power. Chapter 9. Public wins. Start with private battles before the lights, before the applause, before the recognition. There is the silence. There is the fight. There is the war within. Every public win you've ever seen started in a private place. A place with no cameras, no crowd, no comfort, just you, and the voice that says, keep going. Remember Chapter 8. You learned when to speak and when not to, the power of silence and the control it gives you. Now we go even deeper. Because before you ever get to speak in public, before anyone claps for your story, you must win the battles that no one ever sees. This is where the real strength comes from. Not the stage, not the status, not the image. It comes from how you move when no one is watching. Here's the truth. If you can't win in private, you'll lose in public. Because public wins aren't built in crowds. They're built in corners, in lonely hours, in quiet mornings, in dark nights when you choose discipline over distraction. We all want the success, but few are ready for the suffering that comes before it. And that suffering, that's your private battle. Waking up early when your body screams, sleep. Saying no to comfort when comfort is easy. Pushing forward when the results aren't instant. The world sees the success, but they never see the sacrifices. They cheer for the result, but they weren't there for the routine. They see you shine, but they don't see the sweat behind the shine. This chapter is about building power where no one looks, because if you wait for someone to see your effort before you give it your all, you've already lost. The greats don't train for attention. They train for impact. Think about athletes. Champions aren't made during the game. They're made in the gym. They're made during early mornings and late nights. No crowd, no lights, just effort. It's the same with you. Your dream, your business, your transformation. It starts in the dark, in silence, in solitude. The public sees you win, but God sees you grind. And that matters more. Private battles are the tests you face when no one's around to motivate you. Will you still be consistent when no one claps? Will you still study when it feels like nothing's changing? Will you still show up when the goal feels far? That's where your real self is revealed. Winning privately means building discipline when no one checks on you, staying loyal to your goals even when you're tired, practicing your craft even when there's no audience, saying no to easy roads because you respect the destination too much. We live in a time where everyone wants to be seen, but few want to be forged. And forging doesn't happen in front of people. It happens in fire, alone, in the quiet. Here's what happens when you win your private battles. You build unshakable confidence, not fake confidence, the real kind. The kind that says, I've been through it. I've prepared. I've earned this. And when it's time to show up in public, you don't flinch, you don't panic, because you've already bled in silence. You're not hoping you're ready. You know you are. Let's pause and reflect on this. Are you losing in private right now? Skipping the gym? Avoiding the work? Procrastinating the discipline? That's your battlefield. And the more you lose in private, the more it shows up in public. Your lack of preparation will always find a way to expose you. And the opposite is also true. If you build strong habits in secret, you'll look like a genius in public. Not because you're flashy, but because you're prepared. There's a reason people say overnight success doesn't exist. What they call overnight was really years of invisible effort. You didn't just wake up with talent. You built it. You suffered for it. You grew into it, day by day. Don't chase the stage, chase the standard. Because when your private standards are high, the public wins take care of themselves. Here's a mindset shift for you. Start treating every unseen moment like it's the most important moment of your journey. That workout no one sees? Game changer. That journal you write at midnight? Mental breakthrough. That meal you skip to stay healthy? Quiet discipline. That book you read when others scroll? Hidden advantage. Build so much strength in the dark that when the light comes, nothing surprises you. You were born for it, but you had to prove it. Not to them, to yourself. Let's tie it back to what we've already covered. In Chapter 6, you learned to starve the ego and feed the goal. In Chapter 7, you embraced the quiet grind. In Chapter 8, you mastered when to speak and when not to. Now you see where it all leads. It leads to this chapter, this battle, the one that happens alone, unnoticed, uncelebrated, but undefeated. Because in the end, the person who wins isn't the one who talks the loudest. It's the one who trained the hardest when no one was listening, the one who fought the private battles, so the public wins could come naturally. In the final chapter, we'll bring it all together. Chapter 10. Disappear to dominate. Because sometimes your next level requires complete isolation. Not to hide, but to evolve in peace. But before we get there, remember this. If you want to win out loud, you have to fight in silence, over and over again. That's how champions are made, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Chapter 10. Let your legacy speak. You've walked in silence. You've fought private battles. You've shown restraint. You've worked in the shadows. Now, the final piece. Let your legacy speak. Not your words, not your posts, not your stories, just your results, your impact, your example. That's how the world will remember you. Not for what you said, but for what you left behind. All this time you've been building something deeper than success. you've been building significance. Success is loud, significance is silent, but it echoes for generations. You don't need to shout about your process. You don't need to tell the world what you're doing. If you stay consistent, if you stay focused, one day they'll look back and your life will speak for itself. Let's go back through what you've learned. In Chapter 1, we uncovered the illusion of sharing, how talking too soon can kill momentum. Then we explored the power of privacy, learning to protect the seed before it grows. In Chapter 3, we saw that talk drains, work builds, because action always speaks louder. We used doubt as an advantage, controlled it, harnessed it. We mastered the discipline of silence, not as weakness, but as strength. We starved the ego and fed the goal, making sacrifices instead of seeking attention. We learned to master the quiet grind, to fall in love with the boring parts. We figured out when to speak and when not to, choosing our words with purpose. Then we discovered that public wins start with private battles, and true strength is born in solitude. Now you're here. You've done the work. Now stop talking, and let your legacy speak. Because legacy doesn't beg for attention. Legacy leaves fingerprints on people's lives. Legacy is quiet, but permanent. Ask yourself, will your name open doors when you're not in the room? Will your actions inspire people long after you're gone? Will someone whisper, because of them, I didn't quit? That's legacy. Not followers, not fame, not fast money. Legacy is influence without noise. We live in a world that worships speed and spotlight, but real legacy is slow. It's earned, and it never brags. Think of the people you admire most, not the ones trending today, but the ones who shaped your mindset, your values, your purpose. They didn't impress you with their words. They changed you with their lives. That's what you're building, not a moment, but a movement. What's dangerous about noise is that it fades. But impact, that lasts. People forget what you said. They forget how loud you were, but they never forget how you made them feel. What you showed them was possible. What you proved could be done without needing a spotlight. Let your actions carry the message. Let your silence carry the power. Let your legacy carry the story. You don't need to promote it. People will do that for you. If your work is real, it will echo. If your results are strong, they will speak louder than anything you post. Imagine this. You walk into a room, and people know who you are, not because you introduced yourself, but because your discipline already arrived, because your consistency already spoke, because your results already walked in before you. That's the power of legacy. Every early morning, every hard decision, every quiet sacrifice. It wasn't for applause, it was for impact. Because legacy doesn't come from what you do once, it comes from what you do over and over, even when no one notices. Let others chase attention. You chase alignment. Let others chase trends. You chase timeless truth. Because while they're trying to go viral, you're trying to go vital. Vital to your family. Vital to your purpose. Vital to the next generation watching. Let your name become a quiet standard. Not something shouted, but something respected. Because in the end, no one remembers the noise. They remember the results. You don't need to explain yourself. Not when you've built something that speaks for you. That's what you've been doing all along in these chapters. Training in silence, working without applause, winning privately, leading without needing a crowd. This is the reward. You arrive without introducing yourself. You stand tall without defending your journey. You let your legacy speak. And here's the beautiful thing. Your legacy starts today. With the small things, the choice to do it even when you're tired, the choice to stay quiet when it's easier to boast, the choice to move with purpose, not noise. Every small act becomes part of your story. A story told in the actions of others you inspired. That's what true success looks like. You didn't build a brand. You built a standard. You didn't chase attention. You chased alignment. You didn't flex in public. You won in private. And now you let the silence speak. Let the journey speak. Let the work speak. Because if you do it right, you'll never have to say a word. Series, Reflection. This journey wasn't just about staying quiet. It was about staying committed. You were never hiding. You were honing. You weren't being secretive. You were being strategic. And now you've earned something few people ever reach, the strength to let go of talking, because your legacy is louder than anything you could say. So when someone asks, "How did you do it?" you'll smile and say nothing, because your life already answered that question. You just let your legacy speak. Stay quiet, stay focused. Let them talk while you build. When it's time, they'll see. Not because you told them, but because the results will be impossible to ignore. If you felt that, subscribe to Chapters of Change, and keep working in silence. The world will watch you win.